Shayne Hope here. Welcome to Access All Areas, where Club Sport TV takes you behind the scenes at the West Perth Footy Club. On tonight's episode, we speak to West Perth League coach Bill Monaghan, and Paul Sanzone, the reserves coach of the Falcons, takes you behind the scenes to have a look at the technology that helps the Falcons each week. We're down here in the inner sanctum at Arena Joondalup with West Perth League coach Bill Monaghan, here to dissect last week's game against South Fremantle. Bill, 2 losses in a row now, a bit disappointing, but what went wrong against South on the weekend?
Oh, look, we were a little slow out of the box. South had the aid of a slight breeze early, and we struggled a little bit in the first quarter with our ball use, but we kind of got it right close towards quarter time, and then we had a really good patch in the second quarter where we slowly got on top and were lucky enough to be a couple of goals up at half time, but then things kind of went well. We lost Mellington reasonably early with some ligament damage to his elbow, and then early in the third quarter losing Shadbolt and Gordon and through what are fairly serious injuries. Shaddy's done a 3 to 4 week hamstring, and Gordy's broken a bone in his leg, so that hampered us a bit on the back of having Josh Pearce back in the side on limited game time. And to our players' credit, I thought we fought the game out really well, and it was a bit of a hard slog in the second half, being limited with our rotations. But probably the disappointing thing across the whole day was that our ball use wasn't up to what is our normal standard. Without wanting to make excuses for the loss, of course, but how much of a toll did those injuries take? Some pretty serious ones as well. Yeah, look, I don't know what other sides do, but we're averaging around 70, 72 rotations a game, and we had our stock standard 38 or 40 in the first half, which is normal, and we were down to 11 for the whole second half. So, look, whether I totally agree with it or not, if you listen to AFL coaches and even waffle coaches, just 1 or 2 down on the bench can have a huge impact on the game, and the fact that we were basically running with 17 fully fit blokes for most of the second half, because we had a couple of other little niggles as well, I think it really impacted on the game. But to South's credit, they were good, and obviously they've got their own injury concerns, and they went into the game a little light, and they played a lot of kids. So in no way does that distract from South. I thought they were fantastic, and it was probably a pretty good game to watch. And it's not time to bring any subs in like the AFL has? Oh, look, I'm not sure really what the substitute's all about. It's obviously a ploy by the AFL to restrict rotations, but I see the numbers most weeks and it doesn't seem to be doing that. All it's doing is placing a little bit more pressure on the 21 who are out there at any given time, and the fact that clubs are rotating 3/4 time or later, to me it's become nearly irrelevant, because one fit bloke sits there for 3/4 doing nothing. So I don't really get it, and I'm hopeful they won't bring it in at waffle level. So ball use a bit down, you mentioned, against South Fremantle. Is that the major focus this week at training? Yeah, we had a little bit of time off over the last couple of weeks. We're doing some things out in the community, and then we struck a couple of really poor nights of training. So we didn't kick the ball a lot over the last week and a half, and maybe that had something to do with it. So we'll revisit our training program. It's important that we keep the players up and buoyant, and we don't focus too much on the negatives, and we've got obviously a really important game this week against East Fremantle. East Fremantle game coming up this week up in Geraldton. We'll be back with Bill Monaghan very shortly to go through all the ins and outs for that game, and hopefully talk a bit of tactics as well. Stay with us. I'm here with Paul Sanzone, the reserves coach from the West Perth Footy Club. Paul's going to take us through some of the technology that West Perth uses to try and get one up on their opponents each week. Paul, run us through this video system that West Perth's got in place here.
Yeah, look, Shane, after every game, the boys come in on Monday and Tuesday night, and Brad downloads pretty much some stats off the previous game, the week before, and the boys can go through their own footage. We have individual player at a taste. We go through stoppages, team sacks, the game itself, and also the good part about it is we get the opposition footage. So to the next game, the boys can spend the whole entire week going through who they're going to play on, how they structure up, the opposition structure up, so it gives them a little bit of the feedback during the week instead of getting to Saturday and wondering what the opposition are going to do and what the opposition set up against us. So yeah, look, it's and the boys, it's probably about another 5 or 6 computers out the back of where we are now, and the boys come in and go through their individual tapes, whether it be with one of the line coaches or whether it be with the teammate, just for some other feedback. So we've found it a pretty handy tool for the guys, and obviously the players like to sit down and go and rehash of what they did over the weekend, and then look at their future opponents, I suppose.
So this week, East Fremantle coming up. I imagine the midfield is something that's probably pretty key against East Fremantle. They've got a strong midfield set up. You'll be able to look through the stoppages and that sort of thing, and individual players in there.
Yeah, Craig Slaker, our midfield coach, he'll obviously get in tonight or tomorrow night before we train, and he'll go through East Fremantle's footage from the previous game and have a look at their midfield setup. I pretty much do the same. I'm the defensive coach on the ladies side, and I tend to have a look at forwards footage for the opposition, and then give my individual key players down back some information during the week of who they're likely to match up on.
So how long, just tell us a bit of history about the setup here. How long has this system been in place?
Well, it's probably been in the system for about 4 years now. I think since Bill, I think we tried it the year before Bill was there. Certainly since Bill's been here, he's been a pretty big advocate of allowing the boys some footage for their own benefit. And yeah, it seems to have, as I said before, Shayne, seems to work really, really well, and the guys are pretty keen on it.
And yeah, how have they received it? They're all happy to get in there and have a look at the footage.
Oh, they certainly are. Whether they go through and have a look at the mistakes they made, or even sometimes we get the Anton Sailor marks of the year and all that kind of stuff. The boys bring it up and tend to have a bit of a laugh with it all. But yeah, no, we've found it a really good tool in offering something a bit different to the players instead of having to sit face to face. And whilst we still like to encourage that, the boys actually like to see it there, on tape for them.
Well, it's a pretty smart setup. Who has to do the dirty work of cutting all the tape up and putting it together for the players?
That's to our astute footy manager, Brad the coach. He does a pretty good job with that, and no doubt he's a pretty busy man with all that kind of stuff, but he's a wizard at it, so we allow him to run it the best he does. So it does a fantastic job as well.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much for your time, Paul.
Appreciate it. Anytime.
Yeah, I like to eat Strikey's pasta on Friday night. We whipped up a big pot of that, and on the morning, big bowl of Weet-Bix with banana and honey. I just like getting here early and just preparing. Teddy is an obvious nickname, but I've also been called the Rhino and the Raging Bull. West Coast. Don't want to room with Justin Burns because he has a little gas issue. I prefer to go to the Olympics. 100 metre final would be the pinnacle sporting event, I believe. East Perth, team I like beating the most is East Perth. Down flat for number 3. Favourite football moment hasn't happened yet because I believe they're going to win a grand final. My less familiar teammate's Jethro Bell because he constantly talks himself up.
Back here with West Perth coach Bill Monaghan. A big game, as I mentioned earlier, against East Fremantle this week. The Sharks trying to break into that top 4 and the Falcons trying to hang on to top spot. Heading up to Geraldton this week, Bill, how are the players feeling about the travel going up there?
Yeah, it's always exciting to get out into the country and put on a show for the people out there. And even though it's the East Fremantle district, we've got a lot of people who follow us in the country areas, and it's going to be an exciting time. And to get away at this time of year, even though it's only overnight, is a good thing, I think, for us leading into the finals.
Now, if West Perth lose this game and Claremont win, then Claremont will go into top spot. How important is top spot in the whole scheme of things when you consider that you'll play at Arena Joondalup if you do finish top spot in that semi-final?
Oh, obviously a home final, it's got a lot of benefits for our club. Obviously for us to play on our home park and in our change rooms that are a bit bigger and well appointed than the opposition change rooms at Claremont, and I know that's going to change at Claremont Oval soon, so don't worry, Todd, I'm not bagging your club. So that's important, but also the revenue raised and the fact that if you can get a home final, you get decent crowds and extra sales and through the gate and around the ground. So look, it's what we're striving for, but at the end of the day, if we come second, so be it. We travel to Claremont Oval, and we actually think that if we're right and we play well, then where we play is irrelevant.
East Fremantle managed to beat West Perth last time. It was up here at Arena Joondalup. How do you go about beating them this week?
Oh, we just need to make sure that we're switched on from the start. They're a really good starting side, have been for the whole year, and we were lucky in the first game we played them down at Sharp Park that they were inaccurate early in the game, and we were able to pull away later in the game. And then maintain that intensity over the 4 quarters. Obviously, they're relying on their AFL players, and we won't really know who's available for them till later in the week. But I guess Fremantle might have a dilemma if Sandilands and Griffin both are available. Jonathan Griffin might end up heading up to Geraldton, but Brown and Maston got a game for the Eagles, and we're hopeful that they keep their spot in the side. So it's just a matter of making sure we get our matchups right, and we work hard over 4 quarters and try and restrict them in running the ball. They run the ball very well off half back, and even though they don't have a lot of tall targets up forward, they have a lot of avenues to go.
You mentioned the AFL players. Another strong area for East Fremantle is the midfield. How do you go about stopping their prolific ball winners, the likes of Rory O'Brien, Brad Dalziel and those types?
Well, one thing's for certain, we can't match up on all of them and try and slow them all down. We'll pick the 2 or 3 that we think are most important, and that might change quarter to quarter depending on who's getting away from us. So but we'll have a couple of matchups for them, but we also need to rely on the fact that our midfield for the most part of the year has been going very well, and we need to back those blokes in, and hopefully we can move the ball quickly and more accurately than we did last week into our forward 50, and our forwards can finish it off in front of goals.
How are things looking in the medical room? Did West Perth get anyone back this week?
Look, again, I mentioned it last week, but Hunt and Bartholomew are getting close. Both were very close last week, and Morrow was another one who missed last week. And we expect them to play some football this week, but until they get through the main session on Tuesday night, it's a little bit of hit and miss. But with Shadbolt and Gordon and Mellington, they're going to definitely be out. But we think that our 2s have been going really well, and there's some good young kids and a couple of experienced players like Joel Rice who have missed out last week. So we think we've got the ability to cover for those losses. And Cameron Branch, everyone's favourite 100-game reserves player, he's not far away from playing. And he was actually selected to play last week and then had a bit of a hiccup with a bit of a knee nerve or something on Thursday night. So I wouldn't discount that he'd play as well.
There you go, a glimmer of hope for Branchy, one of our favourites here on Access All Areas at the West Perth Footy Club. Some other players may be coming back into the lineup as well. It's a pretty big game for the Falcons against East Fremantle this week. Stay tuned as we take you on the road with the Falcons as well next week. We'll have some cameras up there giving you access to all areas at West Perth. We hope you enjoyed the second edition of Access All Areas, where Club Sport TV takes you inside the West Perth Football Club. Join us again next week as we take you on the road with the Falcons as they play East Fremantle in Geraldton. And don't forget to send us your feedback via email or Facebook.